Chris McGrane is an activist and political commentator who joins us from Lancashire. Well, you know, what has happened is really, it's a tragedy. There's no other way of describing it, especially the fact that there were young people that were targeted. At least that's what it appears. But maybe there is a time for a reality check going back to the year 20, I believe it was 11, when UK was part of that alliance of NATO countries bombing Libya. They should have thought of this type of events that could be a consequence of being involved in wars abroad.
You're completely right. I'd just like to start with saying that this was an absolutely horrific attack, and my thoughts today are with the people of Manchester, victims and all affected. The perpetrator, Solomon Abedini, he was a British citizen. His family were anti-Gaddafi fanatics who travelled to the UK in 1994. It's been said that he's actually been back to Libya since that time. Within the last 3 weeks, apparently, he's been there to visit certain groups over there. And indeed, it's actually been stated that he actually has links, local links, with a local group called the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group, which are another anti-Gaddafi terror group. So there does seem to be some sort of a pattern here emerging of Western armed groups that at one point we've used to overthrow their legitimate governments that are now coming back to attack us. It reminds me of the Pulse nightclub massacre last year in the US, where, again, the son of an Afghan fighter who the Americans armed against the Marxist government of Afghanistan came back and was radicalized after years later and carried out this attack. There seems to be a lot of attempts in the UK to try and make this an immigration issue, and it's not an immigration issue. This is an issue of the United States and Britain supporting and funding these terrorist attacks, terror groups, and I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. Donald Trump in April has just restarted the Barack Obama's program of arming and training the terror cells in Syria. And again, this weekend only, he's signed a deal with Saudi Arabia for $110 billion worth of weapons. And despite the fact, by Donald Trump's own admission, Saudi Arabia is the biggest exporter of terrorism in the world. So I don't think that this lesson will be learned. Unfortunately, it's only after attacks like this happen that the British public even cared to question why these things happen. When they happen abroad, nobody seems to care. So it seems very important that we try and drive home this message now, that this is a direct consequence of our own foreign policy.
Thank you, Chris McGrane, activist and political commentator from Lancashire.